You gonna be okay?
I don't know. You might be on your own. I'm just going to smile and nod because I don't want to keep clearing my throat.
So welcome to another episode of Co-Founders. This is Alex Mont-ros, and we have Lisa on as well. And today we're going to talk about a few things. So we've been changing a lot. I think a lot of things in our business, right? And with change comes some anxiety, right? Kind of is there certain things going to work?
I don't have any anxiety about anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know, seriously. But with any kind of change comes uncertainty, right? To realize the uncertainty of are things going to work out and so on with regards to change in business. This is specific to. I think I want to talk about the one key word, iteration, right? Iterating within the business. So with that in mind, we're 4 years in. We've continually been iterating, right? With, creating, adjusting, decommissioning some things. And with all that iteration comes a level of risk, right? Because you don't know what's going to work. But I think the beauty of being able to be nimble and quick with regards to change in your business is that if something doesn't work, you can easily adjust and try something new, right? So what are your thoughts on, specific to our business, but maybe in general, like how have you seen iterating, because we've launched new services, we've done a lot, right? So what are your thoughts on why it's important to not get so stuck in this is the way we're going to do it? We're just going to plant our flag in the ground and this is all we're going to do, versus like looking at how do you become better, how do you try new things, and so on.
Well, I think I'd say early on in the business, I wasn't as open to changing anything. It was kind of like I knew that what I did worked and I wanted to keep things going that way. And I wasn't open to the risk of changing or adjusting anything. I think now we're going into year 4 of our business. We have to. And I think you have to be able to make changes and know that no change has to be permanent. So if you make a decision to change something or make a decision to adjust or pivot just a little bit, that doesn't have to last. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really important thing for business owners, anybody to take note of, is that if it doesn't work in the first week, if it really absolutely falls flat on its face, you can always go back. Mm-hmm. You can always change things back. And I think that's an important distinction to make. Yeah. It's the only way you can grow is by adjusting and changing. And I think one of the things this year, especially in the last few months, previously we'd said no to a lot. Yeah. Our clients had asked for changes and asked for various things, and we've always said no for certain reasons, not just for the sake of saying no. But I think we've shifted a little bit in saying, okay, when someone asks for a change or asks for something new, the question the thing that can't come up is no. It needs to be, how can we do this? And the answer may ultimately be no. We can't do this without making more errors, or we can't do this for whatever reason. But I think we've taken an approach to our business with regards to iterations as, how can we do this? Yeah. How can we make this possible? And looking at it from that perspective.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we were resistant to, with regards to the way we were doing things on, at least on the coordination side of the house, that we were not, we said, these are our standards. This is what we're willing to do, able to do. But I think the approach we're taking in 2020 is that there's a healthy dose of like, can we, mm-hmm. right? Versus, and again, I'm not a proponent of like just say yes to everything and because then you're going to be screwed, right? You're going to do you're eventually going to run yourself into the ground, and it's not going to benefit your business, right? You got to have hard stances on things with regards to process, procedures, services, and so on, but you have to be willing to try to accommodate to what the customer wants, because ultimately they're dictating the pace in which change happens, right? The customer is. And if you're resistant to that, you're just not going to survive. You're going to be done in a few years. We're actually seeing a lot. I think we're seeing a lot of that within our niche. We have a lot of, at least we know of a lot of coordinating companies that are they've been doing the same thing for years, and they haven't changed. I think it's safe to say that for most businesses, because if it's not broke, why fix it? I think that's the attitude, right?
I think I said that yesterday with regards to something.
Yeah. But if it's not broke, don't fix it. But it's like, if your old Nintendo isn't broke, why buy the new one?
Because the old Nintendo is awesome.
Right? That is true. That's actually a bad analogy.
Oh, it is a really bad analogy.
The old Nintendo is awesome.
Anyone our age wants an old Nintendo.
That is true. Yeah. Yeah, that's a bad point, actually.
But I think
so if your old car is not broke, why would you want the newer model that has the backup camera?
I don't even know where you're going with this.
I know.
But it is, yes, it may work. What you do may work, but you will end up as an antiquated company if you don't evolve with the times. And I think especially in the real estate industry, you've got a couple of different, beyond coordinating, like you talk about real estate, you have a couple different mindsets. One is, I've always done it this way. This is the way I'm always going to do it. And I think, unfortunately, the real estate agents who get stuck in that way of, this is the way I've always done it, I'm not going to change, they're going to be left in the dust.
Yes.
Because the world around you is changing. So what you do may work, but it eventually won't. So you always have to be aware of the world around you and what those changes are. So we've had to do that within our own businesses, constantly looking at what other services are out there for agents. What other services do we need to be providing? Should we be providing? Can we be providing, so that we remain in that number one position?
Yeah.
That's our goal, is to be the number one customer-centric company. So in order to stay there, you have to evolve and change. Just because what we do works today doesn't mean that will keep us at the top 2 years from now.
Right.
We have to adjust.
So with that in mind, I think a lot of the fear with change, or like iterating and trying something new and then adjusting it, continually like calibrating, is that you can go down a path to where you're like, oh my gosh, I've made these commitments now.
Right.
To a customer. So how do you what are some ways that you mitigate that risk so that you don't get so entrenched in that one thing that you went all in on, knowing that, oh, I can't really back out of this thing as easy as I thought I was going to? Because I think that is a real, for example, pricing. Pricing is always a challenge.
Right.
Right? Like, how do you price a service? How do you price, something you offer, whether product or service? The moment you commit, you're now in, right? You're committed to that price, and if it flops to the market, then you got an issue, you got a challenge.
But the market speaks. I mean, and we could take examples from our business, but let's take an example everyone knows about, Apple.
Yeah.
When they launched the original iPhone, I don't even remember what they charged for it, but the market wasn't willing to pay it at that point. And by the way, it was much less than what we just paid for our phones, because the market now will pay more for those. But when they first launched, they charged and what seemed like an arm and a leg for a cell phone at that time. And you had your early adopters who bought it, but most people weren't willing to spend it, so they couldn't get immersed into the market. So they had to come in, lower the price. They had to. It was the only way to get that product into the market. Yes, it had backlash from the people who had paid higher, and I don't remember exactly what Apple did for it, but I do remember it being a big deal.
I think they did a credit.
I think they did for people who had paid it already. But they were able to take a step back and say, hey, I mean, basically they said, we made a mistake. Yeah. We charged you too much for this product. We're lowering the price. We want you to have it. And look at what it's done for them 10 years later, however many, I don't know, remember when the first phone came out. But now people pay $1,200 for an iPhone and don't think twice about it.
Yeah.
Where you would never go pick up a laptop for $1,200 just like that. You wouldn't stand in line for a laptop for $1,200. Yet there's a line around the block when the new iPhone drops. Sorry, I just wanted to say that like it's cool. I'm never in line that first day because I don't care that much. But I did pay $1,200 for my phone. And 10 years ago, there's no way you would have gotten me to pay $200 because phone companies were giving you free phones.
Yeah.
Just to sign up with them. So that's a real life example of a company that, launched, they gave it a shot, it didn't work, and they backtracked, and they're incredibly successful today.
Yeah. It's a great example of like how that iteration process works, right? Because they were committed to the product, right?
Right.
So they were all in. Then they had the challenge around pricing. So they continued to adjust. It wasn't like they decommissioned the product because, gosh, the market is, no, they adjusted to find the sweet spot. And then from there, they were able to build the base and then expand and then continue to increase prices, even though people are, continuing to, at times, kind of argue the fact that why are they paying this much for?
People argue it, but they still pay it.
But they still pay it.
So you can argue all you want about pricing.
We're all addicted to this damn thing. That's why.
Well, right.
So
that's why people are willing to pay for it now. So I think when you look at another product you're offering, say our business, what we're offering, we did a price increase last year to match what we thought we should be charging for the market based on market surveys, market research. What we provide, and it was a bigger price increase than we initially were expecting, but we knew our value, and it was a risk we took when we did that. But the rest of the market has also is also right there as well. And it worked out just fine for us. But we easily could have come back and said, hey, we changed our minds. We're going to lower the price. And I think that's the big thing to take away from any changes that you're making is just don't be rooted in it. I mean, I've said that before, is like none of it's life or death. Unless you work in the medical industry and you're launching something that's, that's a different story, but none of these changes are life or death. And so if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
And it's okay. So if a company's looking at change, an idea that I think they need to consider, change, launching a new service. If you're thinking about launching a new service or changing your current service, adjusting it, whatever the case is, like one, you got to be okay with having like failure is not the end all. It's actually the lesson learned, right? So if you failed and you flopped, it's the lesson is learned in that, right? So then you adjust, right? You continue to pivot until you get it right. And
I would be cautious in even using the word fail, because failure means, to me, failure is almost an end point. It's like, oh, we failed, we're not going to move forward. It's more going into it saying, is this going to work or is this not going to work the way that we're launching it right now? And okay, so this doesn't work, let's pivot and do something else. So I mean, failure, I think that word unfortunately has an end to it. I failed. End. There's no start over with that word. I don't feel like there is. So I think it's more, anytime you make a change, it's that look at it as, is this going to work the way I think it is? If not, what do we need to do to change it, rather than failing? So that's a good point. So I know there's a couple like ways to go about like launching something that you can at least have the expectations set for your customers that you're in this phase of like learning, right? Adjusting, pivoting, improving, versus setting yourself up to go into the market, provide a service or product that you're all in on. The expectation's been set that you're all in on it, and then when it does flop, you lose customers, and they'll never come back. Some of those customers won't come back. So one way I know what we've done is, so when we've developed any kind of software, there's always what they call like an MVP. Like you want to get to the most viable product, like something that is good enough to go to market, but not yet fully baked out, right? And then as you learn, you then improve the system over time, right? So that's one. The second thing is like what we've done is launch like a beta version of a service, right? And with the expectation that one, pricing may be already accounted for or adjusted for beta, right? So you know that you're not going to market with your full baked out service, but you are in the phase of learning some things so that you can get to the point where you fully have launched the service, and now you potentially can ask for more, right? But at the same time, what the incentive
for somebody coming on board to that platform under a beta version is that, one, you can offer them, a lesser price. Two, their expectations that you're going to be learning some things along the way.
Well, and I think with regards to that, as human beings, we naturally have a desire to help someone. Like you do. It's baked into us, most human beings. And so I think, especially in what we've done with some of that beta launching, is we've really enlisted the help. We're saying, hey, we want to offer this service. We think you would be the best partner for this, or a great partner for this, to help us launch an amazing product when we officially launch. In return for your feedback and for your input on this, we're going to give you a lower price. People love that, though. Yeah. And they love their input, like that it matters.
Right.
That's a huge thing. And I think a lot of companies want to have it all figured out, or a lot of people want to have it all figured out before they launch something, and you never will.
Yeah.
Like I've learned that over the last 4 years. You never will. Like it's a constant change.
Yeah.
And staying in communication with your customers about that. We're constantly evolving. Your feedback matters, and they're more on board. So if an error happens or if something doesn't go right, they're like, oh yeah, we're figuring this out.
Yeah, that's a good point. So this leads us to our optimizer segment of the episode, where we kind of share some tips, some advice around different ways to improve and optimize your business, personal life, and so on. And the one thing we touched on today was like leveraging the beta version of whatever, right? Whether that's a product or service. I think a lot of times we don't see enough of it, right? When somebody goes to market, and it sets that company or whoever's offering this service potentially up to fail if you don't have that right expectation set. So as you move into 2020, and if you're thinking about launching a new service, a new product, keep in mind that MVPs, that's a term used within the software world or other sectors, industries, or beta. Keep in mind that leveraging the beta version of something gives you enough room and enough grace potentially with your clients, customers, to have them try the service, have them try the offering that you have in front of that you're promoting, and allow you some room to learn. And I don't know, I know Lisa doesn't like fail, but learn to fail forward, I would say, so that you can improve it and then ultimately get to a point where you have a solid product or service that then you can go to market with and feel good about. So this year, please, if you're looking at launching a service, again, never want to make what's the word I'm looking for? Never want to just assume that somebody knows this, because we've seen a lot of companies not launch any kind of beta, and they're like, hey, this is our service, and they never did any of this testing. They never tested anything, and they went to market thinking that they had it all figured out, and then they failed, right? So don't be that company, don't be that service provider, but take the time to really understand what your customer wants and then launch the service. So with that said, I know we're coming close to this ending this overall topic. Any other final thoughts?
I think we covered it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, get us out of here, sign us off, and hopefully this was helpful to somebody out there in the market, and if any of you ever have a question or ever want to bounce some ideas, I know Lisa and I, we're always open, right, to helping any kind of entrepreneur, family, because we're co-founding our family as well. we are co-founders of a family, right?
Yeah.
All right, we have co-founded a family,
we have.
Not just a business,
we have
a family too.
We have.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time on Co-Founders.
Oh, man. All right.
Peace out.
Yeah, we're good.